February 19, 1945, 8:59 a.m. Iwo Jima. The ocean is already churning with engines. Hundreds of landing crafts slam through the surf, their hulls rattling as waves collide against steel. Inside one of them, a Marine grips his rifle so tightly his knuckles bleach white beneath the grime. The ramp in front of him shudders. Someone mutters a prayer. Another man vomits into his helmet. And then, silence. Not from the battlefield. Not yet. From the island. Ahead, the black volcanic sand stretches in a long, quiet arc. No muzzle flashes, no artillery bursts, no visible enemy, just the looming silhouette of Mount Suribachi rising like a wound against the sky. The Marines expected chaos, machine guns, mortars, immediate death. Instead, nothing. The ramp slams down. Go, go, go! Boats hit the sand. And instantly they sink. Not inches, not enough to stumble, but enough to slow. Enough to drag. The sand behaves like ash, loose, deep, swallowing momentum. Every step feels like running through powder. The first wave moves forward in confusion. Some glance toward the cliffs, others scan the ridgelines. Still nothing. No resistance. A lieutenant turns, shouting orders, trying to push his men inland. Keep moving, don't bunch up. But already the beach is filling. Second wave, third wave. Tanks grinding forward from landing craft, their tracks struggling for traction in the soft volcanic ground. Radios crackle. Engineers begin unloading equipment. Flamethrower teams step onto the beach, their fuel tanks clanking heavily against their backs. Still no gunfire. It feels wrong. Too easy. Behind the front lines, aboard command ships, officers exchange uneasy glances. This wasn't how the intelligence briefings described it. Japanese defenses were supposed to be fierce, immediate, overwhelming. But here? Silence. Then, at exactly the moment when the beach is most crowded, when the Marines are most exposed, when the illusion of safety has fully taken hold, the island opens its mouth. Machine guns erupt from hidden bunkers carved into rock. Mortars scream down from unseen positions. Artillery shells detonate across the beach in precise, devastating patterns. Men drop instantly. The sand kicks up in violent sprays as bullets tear through flesh and equipment. A tank takes a direct hit, its turret jerking sideways as flames burst from the hatch. Medics dive for cover. Radio operators scream into static. The silence was a trap. And it worked. From deep beneath the island, from a network of tunnels in fortified positions months in the making, the Japanese defenders unleash everything at once. At the center of it all is one man. Tadamichi Kuribayashi. He stands far below the surface, inside a reinforced command post carved into volcanic rock. Maps cover the walls. Telephone lines snake across the room. His officers relay reports with clipped urgency. Kuribayashi does not panic. This is exactly what he planned. No bonsai charges, no wasteful early defense. Every gun, every soldier, every position held back until the Americans committed fully to the beach. Until escape was impossible. He listens as reports come in, artillery impacts, machine gun effectiveness, enemy congestion. Then he nods once. Continue. Above ground, chaos. The Marines are pinned. Every inch forward is paid in blood. The sand that slowed them now traps them. Digging foxholes is nearly impossible. It collapses back in on itself. Vehicles stall. Supply lines choke. And yet, they keep moving. Because stopping means death. A flamethrower operator, Private First Class James Donnelly, drops beside a burned-out tank. Bullets snap past his head. His partner taps his shoulder, pointing toward a jagged opening in the rock face ahead. A bunker. They've been briefed on these. Reinforced concrete. Interlocking fields of fire. Designed to withstand naval bombardment. Designed to kill anyone who approaches from the front. Standard assault tactics won't work. But this isn't a standard assault. Donnelly pulls himself forward, dragging the heavy flamethrower across the sand. His partner provides covering fire, bursts of rifle shots aimed toward the bunker's slit. They get closer. 10 yards. 5. The machine gun inside shifts direction, spitting fire toward another group of Marines. That's the moment. Donnelly rises just enough to aim. He squeezes the trigger. A stream of fire erupts, thick, roaring, alive. It arcs into the bunker's opening, spilling inside like liquid death. The screams are immediate. And then, silence. The first bunker is cleared. But there are hundreds more. Across the battlefield, similar scenes unfold. Flamethrowers, grenades, demolition charges, tanks inching forward, blasting point-blank into cave entrances. This is not the slow, calculated defense the Japanese expected. This is something else. Something brutal. Close, relentless. Underground, Kuribayashi begins to understand. The Americans are not attacking the way they were supposed to. Not the way the defenses were built to withstand. They are adapting. And worse, they are bringing the fight directly into the tunnels. For the first time since the battle began, a flicker of doubt crosses his mind. Because if the tunnels are no longer safe, then nowhere is. Above ground, the Marines push another few yards forward. Barely, but enough. And as the smoke thickens, as the screams fade into the constant thunder of war, a new kind of battle begins to take shape. Not one of distance, but of inches. Of fire, of men hunting each other in the dark. And deep beneath the island, the war is about to change. The screams from the bunker don't last long. Fire consumes oxygen faster than fear can process it. Inside, men suffocate before the flames even reach them. Outside, the Marines don't wait to confirm the kill. They've already moved on, because staying still, even for a second, means becoming the next target. The beach behind them is still a killing zone. But ahead is something far worse. The ground begins to rise slightly, broken by jagged rock formations and unnatural shadows. At first glance, it looks like ordinary terrain, scarred by bombardment, pockmarked by craters. But then you notice the openings. Dark, irregular, silent. Caves. Not random. Not natural. Engineered. And beneath those openings lies something the Marines were never fully prepared for. A city of war. Deep underground, the island of Iwo Jima is hollowed out like a living organism. Miles of tunnels snake through volcanic rock, reinforced with timber, steel, and concrete. Some are wide enough for supply carts. Others are barely large enough to crawl through. All of them connect. Every bunker. Every artillery position. Every hidden gun nest. All linked. At the center of this labyrinth, Tadamichi Kuribayashi stands over a map marked with precision. Each tunnel is a vein, each position a vital organ. He knows exactly where his men are. He knows where the Americans are pushing. And more importantly, he knows where they're going to die. Report. An officer bows slightly. Enemy forces advancing beyond the first defensive line. Flamethrowers confirmed. Tanks moving inland. Kuribayashi's expression tightens. Flamethrowers. He had anticipated artillery. Naval bombardment. Air strikes. Even overwhelming infantry assaults. But this was different. Flamethrowers didn't just kill. They denied space. The tunnels were designed to protect his men from bombardment, to allow them to move unseen, strike, and disappear. But fire could reach inside. It could turn the tunnels into ovens. Still, he doesn't change his orders. Hold positions. Engage selectively. Preserve strength. Because his strategy has never been about stopping the landing. It's about breaking the invasion. Above ground, the Marines are beginning to realize what they're facing. A squad pushes toward what looks like a collapsed ridge. Corporal Martinez signals for his men to spread out. The air smells wrong. Burnt metal, sulfur, something else beneath it. Then the ground erupts. A hidden gun position opens fire from a slit barely visible against the rock. 2 Marines drop instantly. The rest dive for cover, scrambling behind whatever they can find. Craters, wreckage, bodies. "Where the hell is it?" someone shouts. They can't see it. That's the point. Japanese positions are not built to be obvious. They're designed to blend, to disappear, to survive. Openings are angled to deflect direct fire. Entrances are hidden behind ridges or inside shadowed crevices. You don't attack them head-on. You find another way. A tank rumbles forward behind the squad, its engine straining against the uneven ground. The crew has learned quickly. Don't stop. Don't hesitate. The turret rotates. Boom. A high-explosive shell slams into the rock face, sending shards flying. The gunfire pauses, just for a second. That's all the Marines need. Move, move. They rush forward, closing the distance. Grenades are thrown blindly into the suspected opening. One lands perfectly. The explosion is muffled. Then silence. But no one celebrates. Because they know. There's always another tunnel. Always another position. And the enemy isn't retreating. They're repositioning. Inside the tunnels, Japanese soldiers move quickly, silently. They carry ammunition, relay messages, shift between firing points. When one position becomes compromised, they vanish, only to reappear somewhere else. To the Marines above, it feels like fighting ghosts. You clear a bunker. You move forward. And suddenly, fire comes from behind you. From the side. From beneath your feet. It's not just a battlefield. It's a maze. A Marine named Sergeant Collins crouches beside a narrow opening in the ground. It's barely visible, just a crack between rocks. But he knows what it is. An entrance. He signals to his men. Flamethrower team forward. The operator steps up, adjusting the weight on his back. The tank is heavy, fuel sloshing inside, pressurized and ready. His assistant checks the nozzle, nods once. They've done this before. But it never gets easier. Collins leans in slightly, listening. Nothing. No movement, no voices. That doesn't mean it's empty. It means they're waiting. Do it. The flamethrower ignites with a sharp hiss, then roars to life. A stream of fire plunges into the opening, disappearing into darkness. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the tunnel breathes. Smoke pours out, thick and black. And beneath it, screams. Not loud, not panicked, controlled, choked. Men trying not to give away their position, even as they burn. Collins looks away. You have to. Because if you don't, it stays with you. Forever. But even this doesn't end it. Because deeper inside the tunnel, beyond the reach of the flames, other soldiers are already moving. Sealing off sections. Redirecting pathways. Preparing the next ambush. The system adapts. And so must the Marines. By midday, the battlefield has transformed. The beach is still under fire, but the fight has shifted inland. Tanks are now essential, not just for firepower, but for survival. They provide cover, break through fortified positions, and most importantly, they bring the fight to the enemy's door. One tank crew, call sign Cobra, edges toward a cluster of caves near the base of a ridge. The commander peers through binoculars, scanning for movement. 2 openings, left and center. The gunner adjusts. He loaded. Fire. The shell slams into the left opening, detonating inside. Smoke billows out. But the right opening? It fires back. An anti-tank round streaks toward them. Impact. The tank shudders violently. Inside, alarms scream. The driver curses, fighting to keep control. Hit but operational, the commander shouts. They don't pull back. They can't. Because if they do, the infantry behind them loses its shield. Again, another shell, another explosion. This time, the firing stops. But the damage is done. The tank is crippled. And now, it's a target. Nearby Marines rush to cover it, forming a defensive perimeter. Flamethrowers sweep the cave entrances. Rifles crack. Grenades explode. For a moment, they hold. But the cost is rising. Every yard gained is measured in bodies. Every position cleared reveals another behind it. And beneath it all, the tunnels remain. Unseen. Unbroken. Deep underground, Kuribayashi receives the latest reports. American forces advancing. Casualties inflicted. Defensive lines holding, for now. But something is changing. He can feel it. The Americans are not slowing down. They're learning. Adapting. Using fire and steel in ways his defenses were never meant to withstand. He looks at the map again. At the tunnels. At the positions he believed were untouchable. And for the first time, a realization begins to form. This battle will not be won in the tunnels alone. Because the enemy isn't just surrounding them. They're burning them out. And above, as the sun begins its slow descent, the Marines prepare for something even worse. Night. Because when darkness falls on Iwo Jima, the island doesn't go quiet. It comes alive. The sun sinks slowly, bleeding red into the horizon. For a brief moment, the battlefield almost looks still. Smoke drifts lazily across the shattered ground. Burned-out tanks sit like broken skeletons. The black sand, churned by explosions and boots, holds the imprint of thousands of footsteps, some leading forward, many ending abruptly. But the silence is deceptive. Because on Iwo Jima, night doesn't bring relief. It brings something else. Fear. The Marines know it's coming. They've been warned, not just in briefings, but by the men who've already seen it. The ones with hollow eyes and voices that drop when they talk about what happens after dark. Sergeant Collins wipes soot from his face as he checks his rifle. Around him, his squad digs in, if you can call it that. The sand refuses to hold shape. Every attempt at a foxhole collapses, forcing them to pile whatever they can find, rocks, debris, even bodies, into makeshift cover. A Marine nearby mutters, "I hate this place." No one answers. Because everyone feels it. That creeping tension in the chest. That awareness that the enemy isn't gone. Just waiting. The last light fades. Darkness takes the island. And then, a single shot cracks through the night. Followed by another. Then whispers. Movement. From the ground itself. Inside the tunnels, Japanese soldiers prepare for the phase of battle they've been trained for relentlessly. Night operations. Small units move silently through the underground network, emerging from concealed exits behind American lines. They don't charge blindly. They don't scream. They hunt. A Japanese corporal, face smeared with dirt and ash, grips his rifle as he crawls toward a hidden exit. Above him, he can hear the faint sounds of the enemy, voices, movement, the clinking of gear. Close. So close. He waits. Timing is everything. Above, a Marine lights a cigarette, cupping the flame with his hands. For a second, his face is illuminated. Just enough. That's all it takes. The corporal emerges. A shot rings out. The Marine drops. Before anyone can react, the corporal disappears back into the earth. Contact! Contact! Rifles snap to life. Muzzle flashes tear through the darkness. But there's nothing to shoot at. Only shadows. Only the feeling of being watched. This is what Kuribayashi intended. Not a single decisive battle, but a constant erosion. Sleep becomes impossible. Every sound is a threat. Every movement could be an attack. The enemy is everywhere, and nowhere. Sergeant Collins grips his rifle tighter as another shot echoes from somewhere behind their position. "They're inside the lines," one of his men whispers. Collins doesn't respond. He already knows. Hours pass like this. Short bursts of violence. Sudden, precise, vanishing attacks. Marines fire into the dark, sometimes hitting nothing. Sometimes hitting something they wish they hadn't seen. A figure moves. Friend? Enemy? There's no time to decide. A shot. A body falls. Jesus, that was Jenkins. The realization hits too late. Confusion spreads, and the Japanese use it. From another tunnel exit, a small group emerges near an artillery position. They move quickly, silently, planting explosives before slipping back into the darkness. Seconds later, boom, the ground shakes. Equipment is destroyed. More chaos. The island is alive. And it's fighting back. But the Marines are learning. They have to. A lieutenant, Harry B. Liversedge, moves along the Leany, checking positions, speaking in low, controlled tones. His men are exhausted, but he knows they can't afford to break. Stay sharp, watch the ground, not just the horizon. It's strange advice. Until you realize why. Because the enemy isn't coming from the front anymore. They're coming from below. Flamethrower teams are repositioned, not just for offense, but for defense. Any suspicious opening, any crack in the earth, is treated as a potential threat. A Marine spots movement near a small ridge. Over there. The flamethrower operator reacts instantly. A burst of fire engulfs the area, illuminating the night with a violent orange glow. For a moment you can see everything. The terrain, the smoke, and the figures caught in the flames. Then darkness returns. The smell lingers. Burnt flesh, fuel, death. But something has changed. The Marines are no longer just reacting. They're anticipating. Adapting. Fighting the enemy on their own terms. Still, the cost is unbearable. A corpsman moves between positions, his hands already soaked in blood. He works in near darkness, guided by instinct and the faint glow of distant fires. Hold on, just hold on. But many don't. The wounded cry out, then fall silent. And the night stretches on. Inside his command post, Kurabayashi listens. Reports come in, successful infiltrations, inflicted casualties, minor losses. Tactically, his plan is working. The Americans are being harassed, worn down, denied rest. But there's something else in the reports. Something he doesn't like. Flamethrowers being used defensively. Tank units maintaining positions even under heavy fire. Infantry adapting faster than expected. He closes his eyes for a moment. The Americans are not behaving like previous enemies. They are not breaking. They are not hesitating. They are pushing forward, even in the dark. Even under constant threat. He opens his eyes. Adjust tunnel access points. Limit exposure. Conserve forces. The order is calm. Measured. But it carries weight. Because it means something fundamental is shifting. The tunnels, the heart of his strategy, are no longer untouchable. They are becoming liabilities. Above ground, the first hints of dawn begin to creep across the horizon. The night has taken its toll. The Marines are exhausted. Some haven't slept in over 48 hours. Their eyes burn. Their hands shake. But they're still here. Still holding. Still pushing. Sergeant Collins looks out over the battlefield as the light grows. What he sees. It doesn't look like victory. It looks like survival. Bodies scattered across the sand. Equipment destroyed. Positions gained, but barely. And ahead? More ridges, more caves, more tunnels. The island isn't breaking. Not yet. But something else is. The illusion. This was never going to be a quick assault. Never a simple invasion. This is something far worse. A battle of attrition. Of endurance. Of who can outlast the other in a place that seems determined to kill them both. And as the sun finally rises over Iwo Jima, casting long shadows across the broken ground, the Marines receive new orders. Push inland. No matter the cost. Because somewhere ahead lies the key to the island. And the Japanese know it too. They've been waiting for this moment. Preparing for it. For months. And what happens next? We'll decide everything. The order spreads quickly. Push inland. No hesitation, no delay. The Marines don't cheer. They don't rally. They simply stand up, check their weapons, and start moving again, because stopping isn't an option anymore. Not here. Not on this island. The morning light reveals what the night tried to hide. The battlefield is worse than anyone imagined. Black sands soaked dark with blood. Craters filled with shattered equipment. Bodies lying where they fell, some half buried by the shifting ground, others frozen in positions that tell the story of their last moments. And beyond it all, the rising terrain. Jagged ridges, interlocking high ground, natural choke points that have been turned into something far more dangerous. Fortresses, hidden within rock and reinforced with precision. Somewhere ahead, near the northern slopes, lies the main defensive belt, where Kurebayashi has concentrated his strongest positions. Not a single line but layers. Depth, redundancy. Every yard forward will cost. And both sides know it. A column of Marines advances cautiously, tanks grinding forward beside them. The machines have become more than support. They are lifelines. Moving shields, mobile artillery. Without them, progress would be impossible. One of those tanks, its hull scarred from previous hits, rumbles at the front. Inside, the crew operates with mechanical focus. Sweat drips down their faces despite the confined steel interior. "Watch your flanks," the commander says, scanning through his periscope. Because that's where the danger comes from now. Not the obvious, the unseen. The tank crests a small rise. For a split second, everything seems clear. Then the ground explodes. A concealed anti-tank position opens fire from the side. Perfect angle, perfect timing. The round slams into the tank's track assembly. Metal shrieks. The vehicle lurches violently, one side collapsing as the track is torn apart. Track's gone. The tank is immobilized. And instantly, it becomes a target. Machine gun fire pours in from multiple directions. Mortars begin to fall. The infantry around the tank dives for cover, trying to return fire, but the enemy is invisible, firing from slits, from holes, from positions that vanish the moment you look directly at them. "Get out! Get out!" The hatch bursts open. One crewman climbs out, then jerks as a bullet catches him mid-motion. He falls back inside. The others hesitate. That hesitation costs them. Another round hits. Fire erupts from the engine compartment. The tank becomes a furnace. Nearby, a Marine squad reacts immediately. Sergeant Collins, face hollow from exhaustion, waves his men forward. "Smoke! Get smoke out!" Canisters are thrown, white clouds blooming across the battlefield, obscuring the tank, the infantry, the enemy positions. It's not perfect, but it's enough. Under the cover, a flamethrower team moves up. Because this is how you deal with invisible enemies. You burn the spaces they hide in. The operator advances, heart hammering against his ribs. The weight on his back feels heavier than ever, not just the fuel, but what it represents. He reaches the base of the ridge. Sees it. A narrow slit in the rock. Barely visible, but deadly. He doesn't wait. He fires. The flame surges forward, washing over the entrance, spilling inside. The rock blackens instantly. Smoke pours out. And then, silence. The firing stops. For now. "Move up," Collins shouts. The squad advances, stepping over debris, over bodies, over ground that feels less like earth and more like something alive, something resisting them. They reach the ridge. And what they find there changes everything. Not just a bunker. Not just a cave. An entrance. Large, reinforced, deliberate. A doorway into the tunnel system. One of many. Collins stares at it for a moment, then looks at his men. We're not just fighting above ground anymore. No one argues. Because they already know. Inside the tunnel, the air is thick. Heavy, stale. The walls are close. Too close. The darkness is absolute, broken only by the faint glow of lanterns placed at intervals. Japanese soldiers move quickly, efficiently. They've been here for months. They know every turn, every junction, every hidden exit. This is their domain. Or at least, it was. A runner arrives at a command post deeper inside, breathless. American forces have breached outer entrances. Flamethrowers confirmed inside tunnel access points. The officer relays the message upward. To Kuribayashi. He listens without interrupting. But his expression hardens. Because this is the scenario he hoped to avoid. The tunnels were meant to be shields, pathways, advantages. But if the enemy enters them, they become traps. For his own men. Still, he does not order a withdrawal. He cannot. There is nowhere to withdraw to. Seal compromise sections, redirect units, maintain pressure above ground. The orders are precise, calculated, but beneath them lies a growing realization. The Americans are forcing the battle into a place where preparation matters less, where planning gives way to instinct, where survival is measured in seconds. Above ground, Collins' squad prepares to enter the tunnel, a decision that feels heavier than any order they've received so far. One Marine mutters, "This is insane." Collins doesn't disagree, but he steps forward anyway. Flashlights. Tight formation. Watch each other. The flamethrower operator moves to the front. Because if anything is waiting inside, he's the one who will meet it first. They descend. The temperature drops slightly. The air thickens. The sounds of the battlefield above fade, replaced by something else. Dripping water. Distant movement. Breathing. Not all of it theirs. The beam of a flashlight cuts through the darkness, revealing rough walls, support beams, narrow passages branching off in multiple directions. A maze. A perfect maze. And somewhere inside it, the enemy waits. A noise. To the left. Everyone freezes. A shadow moves. A shot rings out. Then chaos. Gunfire erupts in the confined space, deafening, disorienting. Muzzle flashes blind as much as they reveal. Figures collide in the darkness. Too close to aim, too close to think. The flamethrower roars. Fire fills the tunnel. Screams echo off the walls, amplified, distorted. For a moment, the entire world becomes flame and sound. Then, silence. Smoke hangs in the air, thick and choking. Collins coughs, waving it away, trying to see. Bodies lie scattered in the narrow passage. Enemy, friendly. It's hard to tell at first, because in this place, there's no distance, no separation, just survival. He looks deeper into the tunnel. It keeps going, branching, turning, endless. And suddenly, the scale of it hits him. This isn't just a defensive system. It's a world. One the Japanese built to live in. To fight in, to die in. And now, the Marines have stepped inside it. Above, the battle continues. Tanks firing, artillery striking, infantry advancing inch by inch. But below, a different kind of war has begun. One where visibility is measured in feet. Where every corner could be the last thing you see. Where fire becomes the only language both sides understand. And as Collins signals his men to move deeper into the darkness. Somewhere far ahead, Kuribayashi receives another report. Americans inside the tunnels. He closes his eyes briefly. Because now, there is no turning back. The fortress he built is no longer just a weapon. It's the battlefield itself. And the enemy is already inside. The tunnel breathes heat. Not natural heat, not the quiet warmth of Earth, but something violent, artificial, the kind that clings to your skin and settles in your lungs. Smoke coils along the ceiling, thick and slow, turning every breath into effort. Sergeant Collins raises a hand. Stop. Behind him, his squad freezes in place, boots grinding softly against the packed volcanic floor. The beam of a flashlight flickers as its battery strains. Light feels fragile down here, like it could disappear at any second. And if it does, you're blind. Completely. A Marine behind Collins whispers, "I hear something." At first you don't. Then, there it is. A faint scrape. Metal against rock. Coming from ahead. Collins gestures to the flamethrower operator, Donnelly, the same man who cleared the bunker hours earlier. His face is blackened now, eyes red from smoke and exhaustion, but his grip on the weapon is steady. It has to be. Because in here, hesitation is death. They move forward. Slow, careful, every step deliberate. The tunnel narrows slightly, forcing them into a tighter formation. Branches split off unpredictably. Left, right, sometimes downward. Each one could hide an enemy. Each one could lead nowhere. Or everywhere. Another sound. Closer now. Collins raises his rifle. Contact front. The words barely leave his mouth before the tunnel explodes into motion. A Japanese soldier lunges from a side passage, bayonet fixed. He doesn't shout, doesn't hesitate. He drives forward with terrifying speed. The first Marine in line barely reacts in time. His rifle comes up, firing instinctively. The shot echoes like thunder in the confined space. The attacker drops. But he's not alone. More figures emerge from the darkness, shadows turning into men, moving fast, silent, lethal. Gunfire erupts. Muzzle flashes strobe the tunnel, turning it into a flickering nightmare. The air fills with smoke, screams, the sharp crack of rifles firing at point-blank range. You don't aim. You react. A Marine swings his rifle like a club when it jams. Another fires until his weapon clicks empty, then fumbles for a sidearm. Collins shouts something, but the sound is swallowed by the chaos. And then, fire. Donnelly pulls the trigger. The flamethrower roars to life, a violent stream of burning fuel flooding the passage ahead. It doesn't just illuminate the enemy, it consumes them. The effect is immediate. Devastating. The attackers are caught mid-charge, their silhouettes engulfed in flame. The tunnel becomes an inferno, heat radiating off the walls, oxygen vanishing in seconds. The attack collapses. But so does the air. "Back, back," Collins shouts, coughing. They retreat a few steps, gasping, trying to breathe through the smoke. Eyes water. Lungs burn. The flamethrower's power comes at a cost, one that affects both sides equally. For a moment, there is nothing. No movement, no sound. Just the crackle of dying flames. Collins forces himself forward again, stepping over bodies, over scorched ground. The beam of his flashlight cuts through the haze. What it reveals, he'll never forget. The tunnel is charred black. The walls stained. The air thick with the aftermath. And the bodies. Twisted, burned, frozen in their final moments. He looks away quickly. You have to. Because if you don't, it follows you. Out of the tunnel. Out of the war. For the rest of your life. Clear, someone mutters. But it doesn't feel clear. Because the tunnel keeps going. And somewhere ahead, more are waiting. Deeper inside the underground network, Japanese units regroup. They've felt the fire. Heard it. Seen what it does. A young private sits against the wall, hands trembling. His rifle rests across his lap, but his grip is loose now, uncertain. An older sergeant kneels beside him. "Listen to me," he says quietly. "The enemy fears this place. That is our advantage." But even as he speaks, he knows it's no longer entirely true. Because the enemy is adapting. They're not avoiding the tunnels anymore. They're entering them. With fire, with machines. With a kind of relentless determination that's hard to understand. The sergeant stands, turning to the rest of his unit. "We hold here, no retreat." There's nowhere to retreat to anyway. Only deeper into the maze. Only further into the dark. Above ground, the battle doesn't slow. If anything, it intensifies. Tanks push forward in coordinated groups now, not alone, not exposed. Infantry moves with them, covering blind spots, watching for hidden positions. This isn't the kind of assault the Japanese prepared for. Not exactly. Because it's not just brute force. It's integration. Infantry, armor, and flame, working together, adapting in real time. One tank commander, Lieutenant Harris, leans out of his hatch, scanning the terrain ahead. His voice cuts through the radio. Multiple cave openings at grid sector. Recommend immediate neutralization. The response is immediate. Approved. Proceed. The tank advances, its cannon firing directly into the cave entrances. Explosions rock the hillside, collapsing some openings, forcing others to reveal themselves. And then the flamethrowers move in. One by one, each opening is treated the same way. Fire inside, smoke out, silence after. But it's never that simple. Because for every tunnel they clear, another one remains. And the defenders inside them are learning too. Inside his command post, Tadamichi Kuribayashi studies the latest reports. Casualties rising. Tunnel sections compromised. Enemy advancing steadily, methodically. Not fast, but unstoppable. He traces a finger along the map, following the path of the American advance. They're not rushing, they're dismantling. Piece by piece. Position by position. Using fire to deny space. Using tanks to break strongpoints. Using infantry to hold ground once it's taken. It's a methodical destruction of everything he built. And yet, he feels something else. Respect. Because this enemy is not careless. Not wasteful. They are precise. Determined. And increasingly, dangerous. He turns to one of his officers. Prepare fallback positions. Reinforce inner defenses. The officer hesitates. General, if we fall back further, we risk losing control of the outer network entirely. Kuribayashi nods. I know. A pause. Then quietly. But we must make them pay for every step. Back in the tunnel, Collins' squad reaches another junction. 3 paths. All equally dark. All equally silent. He studies them for a moment, listening. Trying to feel the space. Because that's what this has become. Not just a fight. A sense. An instinct. Which way leads to danger? Which way leads to nothing? Or worse, which way leads deeper into the trap? Left, he decides. No hesitation. They move. Because stopping here, debating, thinking too long, that's how you die. The tunnel slopes downward now, the air growing heavier, thicker. The walls feel closer, pressing in. And then, a sound. Not ahead. Not behind. Above. Collins looks up instinctively. And realizes they're not alone. Somewhere in the darkness above the tunnel ceiling. There are more. Waiting. Listening. Preparing. And this time, they're not going to charge blindly. They're going to strike. At the exact moment the Marines least expect it. The sound above them is faint. So faint that, for a second, Collins wonders if it's just the tunnel settling, rock shifting under pressure, the natural groan of an island hollowed out by war. But then it comes again. A scrape. Deliberate. Controlled. Not natural. Collins raises a fist. Freeze. Every Marine in the narrow passage locks into place, breath held, eyes instinctively drawn upward, even though there's almost nothing to see. The ceiling is uneven, rough, shadowed by weak flashlight beams. But now, you can almost feel it. Something above you. Waiting. Donnelly shifts his grip on the flamethrower, angling the nozzle upward slightly. His finger rests near the trigger, but he doesn't fire. Not yet. Because if you waste it, If you burn fuel at the wrong moment, you might not have it when you need it most. The tunnel goes silent. Completely. No breathing. No movement. Just anticipation. And then, the ceiling breaks. A section of rock and timber gives way with a violent crack, collapsing inward. Dust explodes into the air as figures drop down from above. Japanese soldiers, already mid-motion, already attacking. It's not a charge. It's an ambush. From above. The first Marine is hit before he can even react. A blade flashes in the dim light, fast, precise. Another attacker lands behind the squad, cutting off retreat. Contact, above, above. The words don't even make sense as they're shouted. But it doesn't matter. The fight is already happening. At arm's length, at breathing distance. Collins fires upward, the recoil slamming into his shoulder as a figure drops directly in front of him. The tunnel becomes a blur of movement, shadows colliding, weapons firing, bodies struggling in tight, suffocating space. A Marine swings his rifle, connecting with bone. Another grapples with an attacker, both men crashing against the wall, neither willing to let go. You can't step back. There's nowhere to go. Donnelly sees it, sees the cluster of movement, the chaos, and makes a decision. He fires. The flamethrower erupts again, this time angled upward, fire blasting into the broken section of ceiling where more figures are trying to descend. The effect is immediate, devastating. The flames fill the space above, cutting off the ambush, forcing the attackers back, or consuming them where they stand. But the heat? It's unbearable. The tunnel becomes an oven. Air vanishes. Marines cough, choke, stumble back instinctively. Back, back! Collins grabs one of his men, dragging him away from the center of the blast. The flamethrower cuts off after a few seconds, but the damage is done. The ambush is broken. For now. But the cost? A Marine lies motionless near the wall. Another is slumped against the ground, clutching his side, blood seeping through his fingers. And above them? The hole in the ceiling remains. A reminder. The enemy isn't just ahead. Or behind. They're everywhere. Deeper within the tunnel network, the attack is reported. A lieutenant kneels before a field officer, his uniform streaked with soot and sweat. Ambush unsuccessful. Enemy used flame weapon again. Heavy losses. The officer closes his eyes briefly. They're adapting too slowly. Or perhaps, the Americans are adapting too fast. Change tactics, he says quietly. Avoid close clustering. Use distance where possible. But even as he gives the order, he knows the problem. Distance is a luxury the tunnels don't allow. Everything here is close. Everything here is immediate. And the Americans, they've brought the one weapon that thrives in that environment. Fire. Above ground, the advance continues. Relentless. Measured. A line of tanks pushes toward another fortified ridge, their cannons firing in staggered sequence. Each blast echoes across the island, sending shockwaves through the already fractured terrain. Behind them, infantry moves in coordinated patterns now, no longer scattered, no longer reactive. They've learned. They stay close to the tanks. Use them as cover. Move when they move. Stop when they stop. It's not perfect. But it works. A Marine officer, Captain Reynolds, crouches beside a tank, speaking into a radio. Enemy resistance heavy at grid sector. Request additional flame units. Multiple cave systems confirmed. The reply crackles back. Flame units en route. Hold position. Reynolds nods, then looks ahead. The ridge looms in front of them, scarred but unbroken. Openings dot its surface. Dark mouths waiting to spit fire again. He knows what's coming. They all do. Get ready, he says, because this isn't about surprise anymore. It's about execution. The tanks fire again. And the Marines move. Inside the tunnel, Collins' squad regroups. Barely. They've lost 2 men. Another is wounded. The air is still thick with smoke, the smell of burned fuel clinging to everything. But they can't stop. Not here. Collins looks at the hole in the ceiling again. Then back at the tunnel ahead. They're not just defending, he says quietly. They're hunting us. No one disagrees. Because they've felt it. That shift. The enemy isn't just reacting anymore. They're adapting. Changing tactics. Finding new ways to fight in a space that's becoming increasingly hostile to both sides. Collins takes a breath. Stay tight. Watch every angle. Every angle. Above. Below. Behind. Ahead. Because in this place, direction doesn't matter anymore. Danger is everywhere. They move forward again. Deeper. The tunnel twists, turns, splits again. At one junction, they find something new. Not a firing position. Not an ambush point. A supply cache. Ammunition stacked neatly. Water containers, medical supplies. Evidence of something larger. Something organized. This isn't just defense, one Marine whispers. Collins nods slowly. No, it's a system. A system designed to sustain a fight like this. For days, weeks, maybe longer. Which means one thing. This battle isn't close to over. Far beneath the island, Tadamichi Kurabayashi stands alone for a moment. The reports have changed. Not drastically. But enough. The Americans are inside the tunnels. Using fire. Using coordinated assaults above ground. Breaking through positions that were meant to hold indefinitely. He looks at the map again. At the lines he drew months ago. The defenses he believed would slow, grind, and ultimately break the enemy. And now, they are being dismantled. Not quickly, not easily, but inevitably. Still, he does not waver. Because this was never about winning in the traditional sense. It was about resistance, about cost, about making every inch of this island so expensive that the enemy would question whether it was worth it at all. He straightens. Calls for his officers. We continue, he says. Simple. Absolute. Because there is no alternative. Back in the tunnel, Collins' squad reaches another bend. This one different. The air is cooler. Cleaner. And ahead. A faint light. Not fire. Not muzzle flash. Something steady. Controlled. Collins raises a hand again. Signals for silence. They move closer. Slowly. Carefully. And as the light grows stronger, they begin to realize what they're approaching. Not just another section of tunnel. Something more important. More central. A command area. And if that's true, then they're not just fighting soldiers anymore. They're getting close to the mind behind it all. But as Collins takes another step forward, a voice echoes from the darkness ahead. Calm, measured, speaking in Japanese, giving orders. And suddenly, the stakes change. Because this isn't just another fight. This is proximity to something far more dangerous.